Hi, I'm Marilee Austin, and this is my student presentation for CIT 230 at BYU, Idaho. I'm going to be talking about CSS specificity. First of all, I'm going to talk about what it is and why it's important. I'll show you some rules about how it works, some practical examples, and then I'll show you where you can go to learn more if you're interested. CSS specificity is how the browser decides which CSS rules to apply and which to ignore. Now, the reason for that is because CSS can be very complex, especially as web pages become more advanced and become very large. You might want some of the elements on your page to be styled in a certain way, but then some of those same elements you want to exclude or do something different with. So you need to be able to tell the browser which way to do that. And because of the complexity of the style sheet, you might forget which rules you've styled or where they are, and so you need to be able to find where the problem might be. This becomes especially important when you're collaborating with teams and working on the same project. You need to be able to be very clear about what you're trying to do in the style sheet. So how it works. Because it's a cascading style sheet, that means that the browser is going to read your rules from the top to the bottom. And that means that if there are two rules that are conflicting, that are the same, then the last rule that comes in the style sheet is going to be the one that's applied. So over here in my example, I have two paragraph elements, and they are colored in different ways. The first one is blue and the second one is green. Because this green one comes last, that means all my paragraphs in my document are going to be green. So this is how you do it if you want some of your paragraphs to be a different color than the other ones or styled in a different way than some of the others. So for this paragraph element, I have added another selector of main, meaning that everything in my main part of my document that's a paragraph is going to be colored blue, and every other paragraph in my document now is going to be green. And you'll notice that I have this main one up here. It wouldn't matter whether it was above or below. Just the ones that are in the main section will be colored blue, and the rest will be colored green. So there are actually 4 levels of specificity. The first one is inline styles. That means that if you have some styles that are actually embedded right into the HTML document, those are the very most specific that you can be. So this example up here, I have this header styled as blue with a left margin of 30. And so this will be styled this way no matter what the CSS says. And the second level is IDs, and they're more specific than classes, and classes are more specific than elements. This is how a specificity score is written. It's written from over here where we have all of our style attributes or your inline styles, like I showed in the previous slide. And then you have IDs, classes, and elements. It maybe looks like it's written like a number, but they're really more just places saying that this is the most specific over here going down to the least specific. I found online this specificity calculator, and it's really an easy way to just type in some of your rules, and it will tell you which is more specific. So giving an example, let's say I have an A element, an anchor element, a paragraph, a header with a class of about. So here it's saying that I have 1 class and 3 elements. Now I'm adding another ID, so it's putting it here. If I go down here and I do something similar, so I have an H1, an anchor, a paragraph, an about class, clue, ID. Let's add another ID of hip. So now I have 2 down here, 2 IDs, 1 class, and 3 elements. Now this may seem pretty obvious because this is pretty simple, but if I go over here to this button and hit sort by specificity, it's going to show me that this declaration that I have up here is more specific than the other. Now this can come in pretty handy if you are confused or don't know which one is going to be more specific because you want a certain rule to apply. This is a place that you can come to do that. Okay, so now for some practical examples. I'm going to open up brackets right here. This is my live preview over here of a web page that I made about GIS, which is what my husband does for a living. It's pretty basic. I have some paragraphs with some headings that are level 3 headings. And then also down here, I have this little information from Esri.com, and it also has a heading of level 3 heading. So going over to the CSS for this, let's say I want all of these headers that I put in here, all of these headings, these H3 headings, I want them to be colored purple. Okay, so I put that in. It looks like it worked. I have all of these headings over here that are purple, including this one down here. Now, I want this to be a level 3 heading, but I don't want it to be purple. So the way to do that is to be more specific about how I want these level 3 headings to be styled. So I'm going to go back over to the CSS. I'm going to add in main H3, and you'll notice that it's changed. So just these ones in this main section of my document are purple, and this one down here is gone back to black. If you look at the HTML, you'll notice that, see, all of these paragraphs here are in the main section, whereas this information one down here is outside of it. And so I can be more specific. Now, I've included over here in these last 2 paragraph headings, I've included a class of better. Well, because they're both better. And so if I want to be more specific about how these paragraph headings are styled, I can go to the CSS and I can add an H3.better, so the headings with the better class, I want them to be colored green. So now you'll notice that just my better headings over here are green. Now I'm going to take this tag that I put in, this declaration, and I'm going to put it up really up high because I want to show you that it doesn't matter if I put it up here or if I put it down below. It's not going to matter because these two are always going to be green because they're more specific. They have a class and an element, so they outrule this one down here with the main and the H3. Okay, so that's the basics of CSS specificity. There are just 2 more things I wanted to go over before I finish. The first one is the important declaration. Now, you may have seen this if you're looking at some other CSS documents that people have done and noticed it before. This important declaration actually overrides every other type of selector or declaration that you will find in the CSS. And when I was looking into it, I noticed that a lot of developers feel like it's been overused, that people are just using it because they're lazy and they can't figure out, or they can't figure out why their CSS isn't working, and so they add this important declaration in. And they really feel like it should only be used as a last resort or in special circumstances, especially because if you're working as a team and you're collaborating with other developers, it would be hard for them if you included this important tag somewhere and then they're trying to change it and they can't figure out why, because this important one is overruling everything that they're trying to do. So I have included with my presentation at the end a PDF file that has some links, and one of those talks about this important declaration, and so you can look some more into that if you're interested. The other one over here is the universal selector, and it has a specificity score of 0. That means no matter what you put after it, it just doesn't have any weight in CSS. So if you put a different declaration after it, that's going to override it every time. This is the PDF that I'm going to be including on the developer forum that you can get if you're interested. It has the links that I talked about. This is the CSS tricks, and it talks about the important declaration. This Smashing Magazine article is kind of fun. It uses Star Wars to explain specificity. This is the specificity calculator that I used. And also I included a Khan Academy tutorial that is pretty easy to go through and helps explain specificity as well. Thank you for watching the presentation. I hope that you will include any questions or comments that you have in the developer forum. Hope you have a great week. Thanks. Bye.